And the topic of the show.
Yeah.
It's official. God of War Ragnarok will be coming to PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
For the first time ever, we are going to be getting, well, other than Horizon Forbidden West, we're going to be getting a first-party game coming to a previous generation console 2 years after the next generation comes out.
Yeah, Can we start here?
We are going to start... Let me read the quote first of all, and then we'll go over it. So, there was a PlayStation blog post. It was an official interview with Herman Hulst, the head of PlayStation Studios, with the PlayStation podcast team. Yeah. So, it's all official. This is...
this isn't like a game journalist saying it is confirmed when they haven't confirmed anything.
And there's no... Wording was a little bit different. This is what they want to say. They said it to their own people. There's nothing... So it's all been crafted perfectly. So PlayStation blog post asks, how does PlayStation 4 factor into PlayStation Studios' development vision? Is it still a focus internally for future game development? And Herman Hulst says, it very much is. You can't build a community of 110 million PlayStation 4 owners and then just walk away from it, right? I think that'd be bad news for PS4 fans, and frankly, not very good business. Where it makes sense to develop titles for both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, for Horizon Forbidden West, the next God of War, and GT7, Gran Turismo 7, we'll continue looking at that. And if PS4 owners want to play that game, then they can. If they want to go on to the PS5 version, that game will be there for them too. That being said, it's very important to have showpieces for the PS5, hence the development of Returnal and Ratchet & Clank that are exclusive to PlayStation 5. That's the quote right there.
That's fucking backwards, bruv! I'm sorry, that is utterly ridiculous.
100% stupidity.
And here's my question. Why was it okay to do that for 4 generations? Why was it okay to leave the previous generation behind 4 generations in a row?
No one had an issue with it.
But not now. Why is that? What's changed? Because, I know I appreciate Corona and all that stuff had a big impact on the market, but the PS5 has been the fastest selling console of all time. They've had the most units produced, most units sold ever in the history of Sony. Didn't all go to consumers, which I understand that is a potential issue, but this doesn't change that.
Yeah.
This is totally backwards to me, and the fact that the games that you picked, and I'm not even a Horizon fan, but no, Horizon shouldn't be on PS4, but God of War certainly not. I saw your tweet about it, and I saw a couple of tweets your tweets about it, and I saw a bunch of people responding who totally missed the point.
Yes. Do you mind if I say my things
Please
I wrote down here?
Take it away, especially because God of War is... We both love the game. We both, in our opinion, God of War 4 is the greatest game ever made.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I have this buffer window. I'm like, it's the greatest game ever made. It's like, it's just there. But I got, like, if you squint, it's right there with The Last of Us 1 and 2. It's right there with, like, The Witcher 3, stuff like that. For you don't have that. It's like God of War and then the other games.
Exactly. I love those other games, but God of War is always going to be
your clear number one. Yeah.
Clear I can see as day. So, I hate this greatly.
Yeah.
First things first, this is the first generation ever that we've ever done this in the history of PlayStation Studios.
Yep.
There has never been a PlayStation Studios game that's come out for a previous generation once the new generation is out. Never has that been done. And the reason for that is because it would give people faith. It will give people faith that you believe in this new console, and it will give them validation for taking that leap of faith to your new console.
It's $500.
Exactly. It's giving them a reason to justifying their purchase. That's your responsibility to do, to keep them loyal, to keep them happy, to keep them playing.
This isn't a third-party title.
Exactly. Third parties can do whatever they like.
Yeah.
They're about making money. You're about keeping your customers happy and keeping them in the ecosystem so then they spend more money with you.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Second thing, by the time God of War now comes out in 2022, let's say in the middle, let's say in the later part of 2022, loads of people are going to have PlayStation 5s. In a year's time, we're going to get, how many have there been? 10 million consoles already been produced. They're probably ramping up production even more now.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's say 20 million, 22 million.
I think 20 is a safe bet.
Let's say 20. 20 million PlayStation 5s out there. That's plenty of people to be playing the game.
Yeah.
And when you do put that game on that console, it then goes, there's this huge reason for me to buy this PlayStation 5.
Yeah, at the minute there's someone sitting there saying, I do want a PS5, but I don't need to get it right now. I'll just get God of War's coming to my PS4.
Yeah.
I'll get it, and when I get a PS5, I'll just put the disc in and get the update.
Yeah. And I'm not a huge fan of I'm not a huge fan of Demon Souls. Not a huge fan of the roguelites like Returnal and whatnot. Ratchet and Clank, I could take it or leave it, whatever. It's not. So end of the day, it's a child's game. It's a cartoonish game, right?
Yeah, I see that. I understand.
Yeah. I want the deep story that's in God of War. I want these robot dinosaurs that's in Horizon Forbidden West.
And I don't need to spend $500 on the console.
Right now. How would I need to hear me?
Can we pause on this point just for a little bit?
Go on.
Because a bunch of people responded to your tweets saying, you just want faster load times. Can we have you got those?
This is not about resolution or FPS or loading times. This is not what this is about.
Yeah.
All those people that seem to think that the reason why people want this game on PlayStation 5 is because we want a higher resolution, higher frame rate, shorter loading times. That's not it.
I'll take the same graphics as God of War 4. Personally, I couldn't care less.
Because it was great.
And I'll wait 2 years, they'll do an update. I don't care.
All of that stuff is a byproduct of the console just being more powerful and having an SSD.
Yeah.
It's what the console being more powerful and it having an SSD allows you to produce.
Right.
We've said before with the Unreal Engine demo, the bit where the woman flies down from the top of that cliff all the way down to this pool at the end, the way that it loads everything in is not possible on a PlayStation 4 because the hard drive can't keep up with it.
Correct.
So you would have to engineer it in a way that you slow the person down.
It's a cutscene now.
Exactly. Either it's a cutscene or you slow the person down or you make it completely on rails and you put so much motion blur that you just can't see anything that's going by. You have to fundamentally alter that feature of the game. And that's what we want, why we want it to be on PlayStation 5. Because
Ratchet and Clank's a good example of this. The portals are not they're not a load time issue. They're a feature of the game, and that cannot be done on the PS4. It can only be done on the PS5. And it will have better resolution stuff as a byproduct of the fact that it's so much more powerful. But with that SSD, you can have these portals that load into new worlds. You cannot do that on the PS4. And so it's not appropriate to be on the PS4. It's a different game. You're making God of War a different game.
Exactly. And that's my final and third point, that we now have to live with a game knowing that it could have stretched its wings somewhere. It could have, one developer probably came up to them and said, I've got this really cool idea.
Right.
We've got this new hardware. We can do this, this, and this allows that to happen. And they're like, that's awesome. Except the I/O interface on the PS4 isn't as fast as the PS5.
Right.
The bandwidth on the memory on the PS5 is great, but the PS4's isn't good enough.
Yeah.
We're going to have to cut it.
Or that's going to have to be a cutscene, and if it's a cutscene there, it can't be a...
It can't not be a cutscene over here, so it has to be in both. And we have to live now with a game that, knowing that there could have been something in there. This isn't going to take away from the story, I don't think.
I tend to agree with
some features could give more to the story, that's cool. But I feel like...
But then I'd be watching a movie.
Exactly. I feel like we're still going to get a great story out of this. This is still the great minds at Santa Monica Studios. Still Cory Barlog directing it. Still Christopher Judge and his amazing voice.
Yeah.
It's still going to be fantastic in that department. It's going to look great. They're going to probably give it as much as they can for the PS5 to get the resolution up, the FPS
I honestly couldn't care less. God of War 4 looked good enough. It looks incredible.
It's true. And also the loading time thing. There was no loading times on PS4 for God of War.
There wasn't.
So
it was a one take. That was the big point. It was one take.
How do you 0-0? Like, you know what you can do. This is not about any of that. This game can still be great. It's just that there could have been something else. And there could have been a conversation afterwards that said, this PlayStation studio, Sony Santa Monica Studios, are so great. They literally invented this technique. They invented this in this game.
There's a bunch of stuff that's been invented, by the way, on PS4 that was invented because they wanted to tell a story or do a mechanic. So they made a thing.
Yeah.
But we can't do that because we are, for a fact, limited to what the PS4 can do.
Exactly.
And then up-resing. You have to do it. You have to build from the base up. You can't go from the PS5 and turn it down because it works on a brand new architecture. Can't be done. It gets worse.
Go on.
Because those people complaining that we want to be able to play on a PS4, By the time that it comes out in 2022, a bunch of them will have PS5s. And then the thing is, I understand the argument if you're saying, well, you're limited, you're making it so I can't play it on my PS4. But the product you're going to get isn't the game that you're asking for. You want God of War 5, you're going to get a game called God of War 5. You're not going to get God of War 5 because God of War 5 has to be a PS5 exclusive. It has to run on that brand new SSD. It has to run with those new things. Like I say, there will be probably like awesome boss fights where different things can pull in all at once, but that can't happen.
Yeah.
And then instead, there'll just be a cutscene at the beginning where a bunch of different enemies jump in because it won't work on the PS4. And the fact that half these people complaining will have PS5s by the time the game comes out and they throttled it so that they could play it on their PS4, which they don't use anymore, hurts me, man. I really, it shouldn't be that. Look, if you think Ratchet and Clank should be a PS5 exclusive, which it should, there is no way God of War 5 should be cross-generation. That's such a weird concept to me.
That's the worst part, because the irony is that they're saying to us that we're being like selfish. Babies and selfish, that we want our game on our brand new system, blah 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 blah, when really they're doing the exact opposite. They're saying blah blah blah, we want this on our console so we can play it, blah blah blah. I don't care if it's worse, blah blah blah. I don't care if it's missing this feature. I don't care if it could have been better, blah blah blah. I want it on my system now. I can't wait. And then by the time it gets that time, they have the opportunity to buy a PlayStation 5. And no, I've got the PlayStation 5
But God of War really wasn't as good as I was hoping.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. And also, look, it's been delayed. It's coming 2022. So the fact that it would be a PS5 exclusive doesn't change that we'd have to wait for it on our brand new consoles. Right? Like, that's something I've come to terms with, and there's a bunch of great titles on there anyway. I'm content. I would rather wait a little bit longer and get an incredible game, but it needs to be on the PS5. Because if anyone's going to invent something, I mean, they did it in God of War 4.
Yeah.
Sony Santa Monica, that one take gameplay, that was them.
Yeah.
That was God of War 4.
That was them. They invented that.
They invented it for storytelling purposes on then 5-year-old tech.
Yeah.
Imagine what they could do now. What they might invent. What creativity they might bring to boss fights, to storytelling, to encounters. Oh, well, never mind. They're limited. They're limited to making whatever they could do with God of War 4. So you're getting God of War 4.1.
Well, we're gonna, exactly. It's not going to be a full step. It's not going to be a full leap forward. It's going to be just a nudge.
Yeah.
The story's going to be great. I'm pretty sure the story's going to be great. That's it's made by the people that made the best game that I've ever played.
Yeah.
So I have complete faith that this game is going to be great. And I'm going to be in tears at the end because I'm sure there's going to be some sort of great story twist.
I am with you there.
But there is going to be something afterwards. After I'm done, I'm going to be like, wow, that was such a great game. I loved every minute of it. And then it's going to come to our discussion, our review discussion. I'm like,
do you know this boss fight? I bet they could have done this. Or what do you think didn't make the cut because the PlayStation 4 couldn't?
I was going to say the Horizon Forbidden West trailer. We'll talk a little bit about that. We will go to properly in depth in a second. The grass movements.
Yeah.
The way that the vegetation moves around Aloy, it doesn't move very much. It moves very little.
Yeah.
And every time I looked at it, I don't know if it was pre-rendered.
It is Aloy is within a range of a thing. Pre-render this motion.
And so it didn't even move. And the thing is, it didn't even move like, oh, she moved like that. It was more like.
Right.
And I'm like,
that's not PS5.
Because I know that this is cross-gen, where did they have to make the sacrifices? Was that one of them? I don't know. I'm not a developer. Is that one of them?
It'll be annoying things like with the PS5, clipping should no longer really be a thing because it can render individual items on top of each other as opposed to
has all that extra horsepower.
Exactly. As opposed to having two models that have to fit in a space, you can render one and then the other. I bet we're going to see clipping because it has to work on the old model. And running code, just because you run it faster, doesn't change that. So if there's clipping, there's clipping.
It needs to be fundamentally changed, and whether or not your system can handle that is the thing. I do want to bring up one tweet.
Yeah.
Back in May 30th, so pretty much a month to the day almost.
Yeah.
in 2020, sorry, a year to the day, PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan said this 1 year ago today. Jim Ryan wants developers to, quote unquote, make the most of the PlayStation 5 hardware and isn't interested in making PlayStation 5 games run on PlayStation 4. And the lie detector test determined that that was a lie.
That tweet aged like milk.
Warm, left in the sun with extra yeast poured inside it milk.
Right.
That's how badly that aged right there.
It just doesn't make sense. We've had 4 generations, and prior to that, plenty of generations of other consoles where the new one comes out. And your other stuff doesn't play it. Nintendo's done it a bunch. Like, I have my original Game Boy games. They don't play on, like, a bunch of their consoles. Can't put it in a Switch.
Yeah.
Generational changes happen.
Yeah.
Why are we going to do this? Because by the time it comes to even Xbox, who are the real villains here, because they changed the discussion because they had no first-party titles.
That's actually the thing that I'm really annoyed at, and that's the thing that I hate the most, because this is a Ryan Johnson situation, in my opinion.
I agree.
Because they came along, they saw their forecast, they're like, we haven't got many games coming up, and we know we're not going to get the install size.
Yeah.
Our projections show that our sales are going to be soft coming into the next generation. If we make an exclusive game, we're going to get no money back. Let's make it then that everyone has to make every game for every console that's out there so that we can maximize the amount of money going through. And then they were like, the reason why we did it, guys,
we're pro-consumer.
Pro-consumer. We did it for you.
By gamers, the gaming.
We did it for you guys. And they ruined this whole thing. They've set this precedent to make it seem like it's pro-consumer to do that. And that's the Ryan Johnson effect. Ruined the whole trilogy.
It's good business for Microsoft.
It's good business.
They were in a weak position, and they made the most of it. And I understand that. Yeah. But it changed the discussion somehow for PlayStation. I just think they should have stuck to their guns. But it changed the discussion. And it was done on purpose because Microsoft knew they had nothing coming forward. The problem is, even they said only for the first year.
Yeah.
For the first year, anything that comes out will be on both platforms. We'll be 2 years into the life cycle of this console. There's no need to bring a 2-year-old, a new gen, to a current gen, 2-year-old title. How am I trying to say this? 2 years into the life cycle of a generation to bring out a game that plays on the last gen.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Do you want to know what's more nefarious about this?
Go on. How does it get worse?
So, Microsoft said that, but the thing is that they haven't had a game to back that up. They haven't had a game come out that's made from Xbox Studios.
Yeah, because that's the point. They changed the discussion.
Exactly. So what they were really doing is they were trying to get under the skin of people so they can then force Sony to make this decision. Because think about if Sony had come out with a banger game that had a brand new feature that was amazing in the first year of the console's life cycle, and
which,
Xbox
by the way, probably will still happen with Ratchet and Clank.
It's true. And Xbox are just sitting there twiddling their thumbs for the next year, 2 years.
Right. Instead, they got a gut punch in. Yeah, but you're leaving out all your PS4 players. And the thing is, all it takes is for them to say, we understand that we have a passionate base on the PS4 and we love them. But we have moved into the next generation and we want to produce the best games that we can produce. There are still people making games for the PS4. Some games will come to the PS4. But we're not going to diminish how incredible storytelling and game development can be for a console that's 8 years old that came out in 2013. And I think that's a good enough line. And it would be people would be salty, but eventually that will within weeks that will go away.
Yeah,
you know, and you just keep showing like, look, here's the stuff, and then people say, well, why isn't it on PS4? And you say, do you think your PS4 can handle this? It sounds like a jet trying to play Ghost of Tsushima, which is one of the most finely optimized games, and I use that specifically, is one of the best optimized games ever.
Yeah.
And it still sounds like a jet trying to take off.
People haven't questioned Ratchet and Clank why isn't it on PS4, because they've seen it running in action. They're like, yeah, this could not run on a PS4.
It's also smaller and more niche. I understand that. It isn't a God of War. I get that, but...
And also, recently, Cyberpunk 2077. That game shouldn't have been on current gen consoles.
It barely ran on current gen.
It came out on current gen, and look what happened. On top of ruining the whole narrative of that game, I mean the narrative around the game, not the actual narrative of the game, ruining what it was on PlayStation 5, ruining what it was for everybody, it also came out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and
damn
it was
near
garbage.
bricked them.
Exactly.
It didn't run at all. Those people were the most underserved in the cyberpunk sphere.
Is that what you want for this?
Right, it will not be able to do. And worse, forget how your game runs, because if it's made for the PS4 like a PlayStation exclusive will be, take your experience of Cyberpunk and transfer that into just how good the game is. Right, so how bad your experience of a game was, and they take that and go, that's the quality of the game we're going to make, because that's what it needs to be to run on 8-year-old 2013.
Yeah. And someone said to me, I said 8-year-old because that's what it'll be by the time
by
it gets
then,
to God of War. But someone said to me, actually, it's more like 10 years old because they probably locked in those specs 1 or 2 years before.
That's a solid point. Yeah, because,